Alright guys, so this is like day 3 of trying to get this little 78 grain bullet to go as fast as possible in the 454 Casull. So the previous powders that I was testing for this started out with H110 because that's my typical 454 powder, and then I changed to accurate number 9. The number 9 burns a little faster. It did give me more velocity, but still nowhere near what I was looking for because it's relatively slow. It's not quite as slow as H110, but it's pretty slow. This one, I was loading some 38 special last night, and there's a type of shotgun powder that I generally like to use for it, and it does great with lighter, like 120 grain bullets, just for plinking in 38. It's a really big flake powder, and it gets really good case fill. Like 5 grains of powder is about a 70 to 80% fill on 38 special. So I decided to use 15. I went into the GRT tool, the Gordon reloading tool, and I found a powder that is in the same or similar burn rate area. They were right beside each other, and I run some data on it, and found that a good starting load would be about 15 grains of it. So, and we're going to see how it goes. It's a really fast burning powder, designed for shotguns. So we're going to test it out. I use it a lot in 38 special. It produces good loads. 120 grain bullets around 1,000 to 1,100 feet per second, somewhere in there. But let's see what this does. Hopefully, I've only got one shot. This round is not crimped because, just for safety issues, I don't want to build too much pressure. But we're going to go ahead and I'm going to zoom in there on the chronograph, and hopefully, hopefully we get this recorded. All right. $27.55. I don't know if y'all can see that. So 2,755 feet per second with a 78 grain bullet. Take a look at the primer, and it looks dang good. It's not even flat or anything. So it was showing that maximum pressure with this particular powder would be reached at around 19 grains. We started at 15, but we're actually looking pretty good here. So I'll go up probably a couple grains and test another one. Alright guys, so I've loaded up another one at 17 grains. The previous shot was 27.55. So I'm not crimping these still because, just in case. The last one, the primer looked perfectly fine, so I'm definitely not overpressured or anything. So let's see what 17 grains gets us. You guys see that? You guys see that right there? (2,975 feet per second. 454 Casull. Let's check the primer out. Look at that. It's still not even flat. I'm using CCI 400 small rifle primers, by the way. but that still looks fantastic. $29.75, 454 Casull. That's moving. I may do one more, go to the max that I've seen, go to 19 grains, which is going to be, it's going to be a little compressed at that level, just to see what happens. According to the GRT tool, this load should have been about 3,300 feet per second, and the previous load at 15 grains should have been right over 3,000, but I've noticed that it's kind of a little bit off. Plus, this is actually a slightly different powder than the one that I'm running the simulation with, so that could be the issue there too. But we're not seeing any signs of pressure, and we're right on the verge of 3,000 feet per second out of a 45 caliber straight wall cartridge, which is pretty insane. So let's see if we can get it to go maybe just a little bit faster. Alright, so the way that I'm actually getting these little tiny projectiles out of the casing, originally I was using my kinetic puller there, but the issue is that this bullet is so light in its weight and mass, it's only 78 grains, that you can hammer this thing all day long. And I actually tested it. I hammered one over 100 times on that piece of oak down there, and then I measured it with the calipers, and it literally didn't even move not even 1/1000th of an inch as far as pulling the bullet out. So what I'm having to do to get it to work is take this tiny little Dremel bit, which y'all can probably barely see, and I'm using it to score the side of this casing just until I start to see the copper on this bullet shine through. So I am putting a little bit of a score line on the side of the bullet itself, but it's not enough to significantly damage it or even affect it aerodynamically. So because I'm actually shooting these still, and they're actually still hitting like accurately, which is amazing even at as fast as they're going. So yeah, so this is basically it. Holding it down and just very carefully grinding it away. Alright, so y'all can probably can't even see it, but the copper on the side of that projectile is just starting to show through the brass casing there. You know, obviously they're just nickel plated or whatever. So now at this point I can put it in my bullet puller and it should pop out in 20 or 30 whacks. maybe it's going to take a few more than I thought. Dang, usually they come out a little quicker than that. There we go. Alright, so now y'all can see what this looks like. 45 Colt casing, you can see where I scored through it. You see the powder they used. Not sure what it is, but it's about, I did measure it. It's about like 12 grains of powder or something like that. Some sort of shotgun pistol powder, I'm assuming, but now you can see where I barely scored the side of that bullet. Now these bullets have, because they're solid copper, they're a monolithic hollow point, they have drive bands, and that way I guess that helps not build too much pressure, not make it too difficult for the rifling to engrave the bullet. But yeah, you can kind of just barely see that tiny little score line there, and that's all there is to it. Now I got to go back in here and put it in a bigger casing and put more powder in it. Alright, so here we are again. I decided not to go up 2 grains on this one. I went up 1 grain of powder, so we'll see where that takes us. At this point, we are starting to become a little bit compressed on the powder load. So usually when you go from an uncompressed state to a compressed state, even if you're only going up a little bit in powder, you can actually end up increasing the pressure substantially, even though you're only maybe going up just a little bit in powder. So I decided not to go up as much as I did the last time, and then we'll see where we're at. But this is obviously probably going to be over 3,000 feet per second out of this Browning high wall. It's a 1885 Browning Morocco, made in Japan. It's a 28-inch barrel, chambered in 454 Casull. On here, I actually use this rifle, by the way, for shooting long range with. I have a custom 70 MOA base on there, and I'm using an SWFA fixed 12 power scope. And the reason why is because that little fixed 12 power scope has over 140 minutes of angle in it. It's got over 40 mils of adjustable range, and so I can use that 70 MOA base, and I basically get right at like 142 mils or 142 MOA, or just over 40 mils of usable elevation range. And I have shot this rifle out past 1,000 yards, and I'm planning on going even further than that this year with it. Of course, I'm using some special bullets, and that's a whole other project. I've got a few other videos on if you want to subscribe and then go down and find those in my channel. But let's get back to it. Today we're not launching 300 grain bullets at 1,000 yards. Today we are trying to set a speed record for 454 Casull, which I believe we've already done that. We're on the verge of 3,000 feet per second, and with this guy here, hopefully we're gonna surpass it. So let me get the chronograph turned on and send this dude downrange. I did, when I went up this time in powder charge, I did move the seating depth out just a hair. I had it at 1.69, and now I'm at 1.70, so just a little bit, about 1/100 of an inch. you know, we want to err on safety. I don't want to blow up this rifle out here just in the name of doing dumb stuff. So here we go. 3,085 feet per second. Oop. 3,085 feet per second out of a 45 caliber straight wall cartridge. That's pretty wild. That's definitely exceeded my expectations. Let's check the primer out. And I mean, surprisingly, the primer just like it's. I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's even close to even showing any signs of pressure. That's pretty crazy. I don't know, guys. What do you think? Should we go up another grain? Maybe one more grain, go to 19, and see what happens. I mean, I think we're, you know, according to the GRT, the expected velocity on this was supposed to have been right around like 3,300, but from what I've been seeing, it's always a little over exaggerated in there. And again, I'm using a slightly different powder than what I'm running the simulation with. So I just wonder, you know, I mean, obviously this is probably the fastest 454 round ever fired in existence, and I don't know that there's really a need to go faster than that. It's a 78 grain bullet going 3,085 feet per second. So I'm thinking that's probably roughly about 1,300 foot-pounds of energy, give or take. You know, I'm just thinking about whether that's a, you know, like a 5.56 round. Though most 78 or 80 grain 5.56 match bullets do not go that fast. They usually are around, you know, like 2,700. You know, so I mean, I don't know. We'll run a kinetic energy calculator and see what kind of energy we're actually getting out of this thing, and I'll let you guys know. All right, guys, last one. Again, these are 78 grain bullets that I pulled from Liberty Civil Defense, or Liberty Ammunition Civil Defense 45 Colt. So they're a .4515 diameter 45 caliber projectile, but they're a monolithic copper hollow point. They only weigh 78 grains. So this is the last one I'm going to do, and obviously this is not 45 Colt. This is something much more cool. I mean, I don't know. There are, you know, 45 Colt is, you know, as far as history goes, like, that's a really cool thing. But so is 454 Casull. It's got a very interesting history. I mean, for a long time, since like 1958 when it was designed, it took a long time for somebody to come out with another cartridge that would even rival it, you know, like, and still most of them today are still not the same pressure as the 454. You know, with the 454 Casull maximum chamber pressure, operating pressure is 65,000 psi, which is, I mean, that's like, you know, up there with big Magnum rifles and stuff. And this is a handgun cartridge. And then the proof loads, the proof pressures on this thing they exceed, I think they're right at 91,000 is what the proof load is. It's 140% of the maximum pressure, so 140% of 65,000. I believe that turns out to be 91,000. But anyways, I did do the ballistic calculation on this for that last one that did 3,085 feet per second. We're looking roughly 1,650, 1,660 foot-pounds of energy there. So this one hopefully is going to go a little faster. We're going to see. I seeded this one out another 1/10 of an inch, so 1.71 is what I'm running right now as far as cartridge overall length. So enough said. Let's see what happens here. I mean, and by the way, the recoil on this is like so minimal. I mean, it can't have maybe 11, 12 pounds of recoil. Of course, this rifle's kind of heavy. It's like 12 pounds, 12 and a half pounds with the scope on it. Make sure I get centered over the chronograph. Aimed at the target. And firing. .3161. All right, Liberty Civil Defense. When are you guys gonna build me some 454 rounds? Because the amount of, spending the money on a box of the 45 Colts, spending like $35 for 20 rounds, and then having to cut the cases to pull the projectiles out to reload them. I mean, that makes this whole endeavor extremely expensive just to make one round. If you think about it, by the time you put powder and primer and all that in there. Of course, I've reloaded this one casing over, I don't know, 7 or 8 times in the past 2 days. So it's probably getting pretty tired and probably needs a break. I probably need to just toss it. But yeah, Liberty Civil Defense, you guys, I made a post and tagged y'all in it, explaining what I was going to do with your ammunition. And I think you guys reported it on my Facebook page, which was kind of funny. But anyways, just to show you, there were some people worried that, those little projectiles may not hold together going this fast. But we can go down there and look at the target. You can see my backstop where the bullets go perfectly straight in. None of them are keyholing or anything, and they just make perfect round holes. But let's see what that last primer looked like. Yeah, still like literally no pressure. Still no signs of pressure. That's just crazy. 3161 in a 45 caliber straight wall cartridge. Now, according to the GRT, I'm about like 109, 110% load right now. So it's definitely compressed load at this level, and honestly, I don't think I could even get another grain of powder in the case, without it actually overflowing before trying to stuff a bullet in on top of it. So this is probably what it's going to have to be. So these are all the 454 rounds I've shot over the past couple of days of testing, and of course there's some 22 rounds and some other stuff in there too, but and then there's a couple of 454 rounds up here. You can tell, obviously, these big ass holes, but yeah, not one of those has gone in the target sideways. So they're still flying straight. They are stabilized and they are just moving. That first one I tested that didn't register yesterday, I don't know if you guys saw that video, but that first one that I tested that didn't register, you can actually see, where's my finger? You can actually see the back of the bullet right there. Like, I can touch it. It's pretty wild. But it, like, I don't know, it was so subsonic that I think it couldn't have been going more than, 500 or 600 feet per second. And you know, and it hit way down here, and all the other rounds are all up here, so it was really just slow. But this is the back of my backstop. Just got some concrete blocks, and it doesn't look like anything's fallen out of here yet. Yeah, there are a couple little pieces of concrete fell off. There's a gas check off of a 454 Casull bullet. So, yeah. Anyways, the concrete fence posts from like the 1930s or 40s that were found on my property, I use those. And then 10 inches of plywood, give or take. Well, maybe not 10, probably like 8 inches of plywood layered up there. And then I've got my little 22 target that I shoot at a bunch, and then, you know, obviously I can just staple targets to it. So it's pretty decent backstop. It ain't going nowhere, and it would be really hard for something to go in it or go through it. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We did successfully make, I mean, it has to be the world's fastest 454 Casull. It just has to be. I don't, you know, if there's somebody out there shooting one faster than 3160, you know, if there's somebody out there doing more than that, I want to see it. I want to see what you've got going on. I want to see the video. I want to see what's going on. Of course, this is in a rifle too, by the way. It's not in a handgun. So in a handgun, you're probably going to see, you know, 400 or 500 feet per second less velocity. Because that's what we saw when I put the 45 Colt round in this gun in the first video. I put the 45 Colt in there, the Liberty Civil Defense, and the box advertises 1800 feet per second for that same 78 grain projectile. But what we got out of this rifle was over 2500. It's like 2518 feet per second. And y'all can go back and watch that video if you want to see that. But that's with a 45 Colt in this gun, and it's only advertised at 1800 out of a handgun. So we gained 700 feet per second over the handgun with the 28-inch barrel. But so if you want to use that same kind of rule of thumb, this 454 round loaded into a handgun, you know, we're running 3160 out of this, so subtract 700 feet per second from that, and you're gonna be what, 3460. So 3460 or 2460. So drop down to about 2460, but that's insanely fast. You know, that is insanely fast for a handgun cartridge, especially with 78 grain projectile. It's still gonna do, you know, that's gonna be a gnarly self-defense round. But my plan is I've got some nickel plated casings, and I'm going to load up pull the rest of those little 78 grain projectiles and load them up in the nickel plated ones, so they look almost like the Liberty Civil Defense ammo. So it's got a nickel projectile on, you know, nickel plated projectile in a nickel plated case. They do look good, not gonna lie. I do love the way they look. But I want to load them up that way, and just you know, I don't know, I'm gonna load up, I'm gonna have 10 left. I'm gonna load them in, and I'm gonna shoot them out of my lever action. I've got a Rossi 454 Casull, Rossi Puma, and what's cool about it, and the 454, is it holds 9+1 rounds. So I'm gonna load 10 of those and just use them in that rifle. And I mean, they are gonna be like some show-stopping self-defense rounds, you know, because it's got a 20-inch barrel. So I still would think that they're still going to hit close to 3,000 feet per second in that 20-inch barrel. It's 8 inches shorter than this one, but I would say they're probably still going to get to 3,000 right at it. And 3,000 feet per second with a 78 grain bullet, you know, monolithic fragmenting hollow point, it's going to have actual hydrostatic damage, like really good stuff. But Yeah, that'll be the little home defense rifle, I think, maybe. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed watching this, and I know I've been kind of rambling on, but I'm just kind of excited about it and everything, you know, the way this worked out. It's super cool, and we'll see you guys next time in the next video. Thanks for watching.